Welcome to Inside LeverGolf, the show that dares to ask, what if everything you've been taught about the golf swing is wrong? Your host, Jim Ferreri, an elite athlete, performance coach, and the inventor of the LeverGolf swing. Each week, we're breaking down the myths of traditional technique and showing you a simpler, smarter way to crush the ball without chasing your tail on the range. It's part swing science, part common sense, and all about giving you control, distance, and confidence. This is not golf the way they taught it. This is LeverGolf.
What if I told you one of the most basic fundamentals in golf might be one of the biggest reasons you can't repeat your swing? Today, we're talking about the swing plane, that imaginary line, that imaginary circle, that invisible tightrope you're expected to walk while swinging a club at full speed. Hello, I am your host, Jim Ferreri, and this is Inside LeverGolf, where I tee up the truth, slice through the myths, and set you on a swing path straight to the best golf of your life. Welcome back to the show. This is episode 3, and we're calling this one the swing plane. I am going to make you a promise today. By the end of this episode, you're going to understand why staying on plane is one of the most inconsistent goals in golf instruction in the modern golf era. In this episode, we're going to cover why the swing plane is mostly an illusion in real life, why it changes even when you think you're set up the same, and why chasing it creates feel-based perfection instead of science-based results. So first, let's define swing plane. The swing plane is described as an imaginary tilted circle used as a reference to keep the golf club on while it travels away from the ball during the backswing. And on the downswing, it is supposed to stay on the same imaginary circle while performing the list of must-dos to complete the swing. And the way it's taught, it's like this. Put the club on plane, keep it on plane, bring it back on plane, and if you get off plane, you need to reroute it back onto plane. Now, pause right there for a second, because that's already a problem, right? It's an invisible concept being taught as if it's a visible target. Look, it's like telling someone, walk this tightrope 30 feet in the air, but you don't get a balancing pole and you don't have a safety net. And by the way, you have to do it at full speed with a metal stick in your hands. That's what the swing plane has become, a tightrope, an invisible one at that. The perfect imaginary plane changes every time you address the ball. And that is what most golfers don't realize. They think the swing plane is fixed. Like once you find it, you can repeat it forever. But in reality, the plane is created by your setup. The distance that you stand from the ball, your posture, your spine tilt, the way your arms hang, grip height, stance width, and ball position. And here's the killer. If just one piece of the setup is different, then you just changed the geometry. And if you changed the geometry, you changed the swing plane. So think about what golf asks you to do. Think about it. It asks you to reproduce the exact same setup, the exact same posture, the exact same angles, the exact same arm hang, the exact same spacing every single swing. Even on uneven lies, uphill lies, downhill lies, side hill lies, different clubs, different lengths, different ball positions. And then it says, now swing perfectly on that imaginary plane. Look, that's not a system. That's a hope and a prayer. That's gambling with feel. So why staying on plane becomes a trap. And here's what happens to golfers when they attempt to stay on plane. Okay? They start trying to manage the club. They start steering or guiding the club. They start placing the club where they think it should be instead of producing a swing that's driven by a repeatable motion. And when you try to place the club on an invisible path, your brain starts running constant corrections. Like, am I too steep? Am I too flat? Am I over the top? Am I laid off? Is it inside? Is it outside? Oh, is it on plane? Okay, now add speed. Add pressure. Add a target. Oh, by the way, add out of bounds to the right and water to the left. Or how about some first tee jitters or your buddy watching? Okay? And now you're supposed to do geometry while you make that swing. First of all, that is not athletic. That's mental chaos. And it creates inconsistency. Because you're not repeating a motion. You're chasing an imaginary shape. No matter what you believe, the swing doesn't happen on a perfect plane anyway. Let's get real for a second. The traditional golf swing is not a perfect circle in space, okay? The club moves off the swing plane because your body moves, your spine changes, your arms fold, your wrists hinge, your pressure changes. The club is not like drawing a clean circle with a compass on a piece of paper. So when people say stay on plane, it's verbiage of oversimplification that creates a fake standard. And then golfers spend years trying to match a standard that doesn't even exist in the way they imagine it. Look, even elite players don't share one perfect swing plane. But they have the ability to fix or reroute the club when they feel the plane wasn't right. Okay? They have a way of achieving impact positions that average golfers just will never have. But the average golfer hears swing plane, and they use it to make their backswing and rely on it to get safely back to make contact with the ball. Look, that is nothing more than a setup for frustration. The real cost, though, becomes compensations. Now, here's the part that matters, okay? When you chase plane, you create compensations. Because if you take it back off plane, you have to start manipulating the club to fix it. And then what happens? You save it sometimes, but you miss it more often than not. And now your swing becomes a rescue mission, not a repeatable motion. So you might hit one great shot, and then the next swing, same thought, same plane, and it's a completely different result. And you ask why? It's simple. Because the setup changed a hair, or the timing changed a hair, or the face changed a hair, the path changed a hair. And the swing plane concept didn't give you anything measurable to rely on. Just feel. And feel is unreliable, especially under pressure. Now, I can hear somebody saying, okay, Jim, I get it, but doesn't the club swing on some kind of plane? And my answer would be, yes, it does, okay? It swings on a plane or an arc. The club will naturally travel through space on an arc. But here's the difference. There's a difference between recognizing the club has an arc and chasing an imaginary arc. One is observation while the other one is obsession. And obsession kills repeatability because it puts your focus on something you can't actually control precisely. Okay? Not without training aids, not without measuring devices, not without recreating the exact same setup every time. So if your entire swing depends on a perfect swing plane, it's not built on science. It's built on imagination and a prayer, okay? From now forward, instead of questioning if you were on plane, ask this: does my motion produce a repeatable impact? Do I strike the ball solid? Do I deliver the club predictably? Can I control the face? Because golf doesn't grade you if you can stay on a swing plane. Golf grades you on the results, your score. And the reason so many golfers struggle is because they've been trained to chase the invisible swing plane and invisible positions instead of learning a repeatable biomechanical movement that produces consistency. And that is where LeverGolf comes in. Now, I'm not going to unpack everything in one episode, but this is where LeverGolf flips the script. LeverGolf isn't asking you to walk a tightrope with your arms, club, and imagination. LeverGolf is not built on the idea of a perfect swing plane. It's built on creating a repeatable motion with less manipulation and less guessing. LeverGolf is built on athletic sequencing. One biomechanical motion that triggers a perfect chain reaction of motions to create a perfect backswing 100% of the time. Okay? Now that's the point here. When you reduce moving parts and you stop chasing invisible lines with your imagination, you stop needing a miracle to hit consistent golf shots. Now, before I wrap this up, I want to add something important, okay? By now, you probably hear the certainty in my voice, and I want you to know where that certainty comes from, okay? I'm writing a book right now, Why Me? The Making of LeverGolf. And it's not a book on golf tips, okay? It's the full story behind why I see the swing the way I do and why LeverGolf isn't a guess. Here's what I mean. For decades, golf has been taught like the answer is hidden in more positions, more checkpoints, more invisible lines, some more feel, okay? And what's happened is that millions of golfers have worked hard, spent money, tried to do it, quote, the right way, and still felt like the swing was slipping through their fingers. This is one of those common sense moments. That should tell you something. It's not that golfers are broken. It's that the model is, okay? And solving that problem wasn't going to come from another tweak. It wasn't going to come from another tip, okay? It was going to take somebody willing to challenge the entire foundation. Not disrespectfully, honestly. That's what my book explains. Not in an ego way, but in a real way. It shows you the path that built the mindset to do this. The years of sports, the obsession with motion and repeatability, the experiences that taught me what holds up under pressure and what doesn't. Because you don't accidentally end up here. You don't accidentally build a system that simplifies something this hard. My life experiences shaped that ability and gave me the confidence to say this. LeverGolf is real. It's teachable. It's repeatable. And it's built for the golfer who's tired of chasing the past. So as we go through these episodes, you're going to keep hearing me pull apart the old ideas. Not to be negative, but to finally give golfers clarity. And when the book drops, it's going to connect every dot. You'll understand the swing, and you'll understand why it took until now for someone to address it this way. So stay with me, because what I'm sharing here isn't noise. It's the beginning of the reset. So here's the bottom line for episode 3. Look, the swing plane is an imaginary concept that asks for real-world perfection. It changes every time your setup changes. And your setup changes more than you think. So when you build your swing around staying on plane, you build it around feel, corrections, and constant compensation. And that's why golfers are inconsistent. Look, it's not because they're not talented. It's not because they're not athletic. But because they have been handed a goal that's impossible to reproduce. And that, my friends, is the truth. If this episode hit home for you, do this. Stop trying to walk the tightrope. Stop trying to build a swing around an imaginary, invisible circle. And start focusing on a motion that you can repeat. I'm Jim Ferreri. Thank you for supporting LeverGolf, and remember, learn in a day, master in a year, and play for a lifetime.
A wrap on this episode of Inside LeverGolf with Jim Ferreri. If you've been chasing a swing, it's time to try the swing that actually works. Visit LeverGolf.com for testimonials, training, and more. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with someone who's ready to stop struggling and start swinging smarter. Thanks for listening, and remember, you've got options. Play the one that wins.